This is Fat to Fierce. Welcome to the Confidence Chronicles. I'm your host, Amy English. Join me on this empowering adventure towards a healthier relationship with food, body, and self, one delicious bite at a time. Welcome to Fat to Fierce. This is episode number 1. My name is Amy English. I'm an emotional eating coach. And on this podcast, I'm going to be talking about all things related to overcoming emotional eating, having a healthier, happier, more peaceful relationship with food, and really just feeling better about yourself. That's what we're going to be focused on during our time together. Welcome to the very first episode. Okay, can I just tell you, I have wanted to do this podcast for a long time. I've had this microphone in my desk for years. So I'm really excited to be here and starting this now. And I was excited about doing this. I am excited about doing this because there's so much I have to say and talk about in this area of emotional eating. Emotional eating, food confidence, body confidence, all that good stuff. But I've been so nervous about putting myself out there in this way with my actual voice. And for those watching this on video, on camera, right? That can be scary. I've had a blog for several years, and I've written about this topic for that amount of time. But talking and being on camera feels much different than writing. It's more personal. It's more vulnerable. So here I am. We're going to do this. And I think the other thing is that the topic of emotional eating is very near and dear to my heart. It's close to me. I struggled with emotional eating and subsequently my weight for decades. Since I was a little kid, actually. And for most of that time, it felt like I was running on a hamster wheel. I would try doing all kinds of different things to stop myself from overeating, and to change my habits, my behaviors around food, but nothing really ever worked. And I never got anywhere. It was always as if food was in charge. That's how I felt most of the time. Like food had control and I couldn't control myself. I couldn't stop myself from eating the food, especially after a stressful day at work, in my adult years and my working years, or when anytime my favorite foods were in the house. And I'm going to share lots of stories of times when things like that happened, when I would ask my husband to hide food, or lock cookies in the basement. I mean, I have stories for days. And I would tell myself no. Like I would resist the food often. I would restrict myself from it. I would resist it and tell myself no. But we all know what happens if you've struggled in this area. We all know what happens, right? The floodgates eventually open and I would eat it all anyway. And by that point, because I had restricted myself for so long and said no, I'd end up eating more than I initially intended. And I was just stuck in this cycle for a very, very long time. So one of the reasons I think it's been harder, more challenging for me to bring this to voice and camera is because of my own personal history with this. Even though I've overcome it, and I'm going to share about that too, it's definitely more personal, right? And so I think that's what has made coming to this next stage just a little bit more challenging. But here I am. We're here. We're doing it. And I'm excited about it. All right. So back to emotional eating. I often describe my history with food. My history of emotional eating, like being a tornado. Like I'm the tornado, okay? A tornado or a cyclone, right? It's the visual I get when I think about my days as someone who is eating emotionally. It's like spinning around in the kitchen like a tornado, right? And going from the fridge to the pantry to the freezer and just eating anything and everything in my path. And it was all because I was feeling bored or stressed or mad or sad about something that had happened in my life. Or I just didn't want to do the mundane work task, or I was trying to avoid some other thing that I needed to do, right? And so what better way to pass the time than to, eat all the crackers? I can remember very specific moments when my children were little. They're teenagers now, but I remember when they were little and we'd put them to bed, and I can just remember standing in front of the pantry, shoveling handfuls of their Teddy Grahams into my face because the day was done, and that was a way to relax. That was just something that I did almost on autopilot. But here's the thing. It's been over 6 years since my last emotional binge. And I am going to talk more about this in later episodes. So I do hope you'll stay tuned for that. And in that time, in those 6 years, I have helped dozens of women break the cycle of emotional eating and binge eating for themselves, and help them take a peaceful bite of food and stop fighting with themselves. And now here I am facing my really big fear and bringing it all to life in this podcast. This is an important topic. Millions of women struggle with emotional eating and binge eating and even overeating, right? I can offer a pathway to freedom. That is why I want to bring this podcast to the world, because it is absolutely possible to free yourself and break the cycle of emotional eating and binge eating and even just overeating. Okay. It is possible to have a peaceful, healthy, quote unquote, normal, whatever normal is for you, relationship with food, where it doesn't feel like food is in charge, a relationship where you actually feel like you are in the driver's seat. And for those of us, myself included, who struggled for a very long time thinking that food was in charge, what I can tell you is that it is the most amazing experience to know that you are in control, and not in control in a weird way. Okay. Not where you become super restrictive control. I just mean, when I say control, I mean the choice is yours. You decide what you're going to eat, when you're going to eat, how much you're going to eat, right? Nothing's off limits. You just realize that having ice cream in the freezer, it doesn't burn a hole in your brain all day until the half gallon is empty, right? Having freedom with food and being in control and having a peaceful relationship with food just means you can have ice cream in the freezer and decide when you want to have it. And it can be there for as long as it's there. True story. So back in the day when I struggled with food, and ice cream was in the freezer, I wasn't satisfied until it was gone. So I would just keep thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it until I ate it all up. Now what happens? We have ice cream in the freezer. It typically gets fuzzy before anybody finishes the ice cream. I've had more ice cream get freezer burned in the last several years than ever before, because typically I forget about it. I just don't think about it anymore. I have it when I want some, and then it's just, okay, I don't want it anymore. That right there, as someone who struggled for a really long time, over 30 years, just the fact that I can say that and feel that and be like, good with it, that's the transformation. That's an amazing feeling. Okay. So what I love most about the work that I do in the world with overcoming emotional eating is it helps women take back their power from food and and feel more comfortable in their skin, because reconnecting with your body, building a new relationship with your body is a really important piece of this puzzle, okay? Because overcoming the habit of emotional eating, we rely on the body, because we start listening to our body to understand those hunger cues, knowing the difference between physical hunger and emotional hunger. And when you're able to reconnect with your body and start paying attention to how your body feels and paying attention to your physical hunger cues and knowing the difference between the physical hunger and the emotional hunger, this is all key to breaking the cycle of emotional eating and binge eating for good. Because once you reconnect with your body and you start building that relationship in a positive way, your body's with you on this journey forever, for the rest of your time here on this planet, right? So that once you learn that, you don't unlearn that, and you're able to really work with your body moving forward in such a wonderful, powerful way. The one word that my clients use to describe how they feel after working together is empowered. And that's because they're able to decide their next move with clarity and confidence, because food is no longer a burden. So whatever they decide to do moving forward, food's no longer an issue. Food is there. Food is food. They have control. They reclaim their power. The cookies stop calling their name. They stop feeling the urge to, coast into the drive-through after a stressful day at work when they're not hungry, right? They're actually able to check in with themselves and question what they want to do, what they want to eat. And they take that power back. And that's what's so powerful. It's like all that time and energy spent fighting with food. And again, if you struggled with food, you may know what I'm talking about here. This might land. Because there's a whole bunch of time and energy that gets spent fighting with food and like swimming in self-doubt. And there's like a lack of confidence, right? And all that time and energy becomes available for something else, something better. So for me, that was a huge chunk of time of my day, of my life, that went towards, oh my gosh, what am I going to eat? How am I going to be good today? How am I not going to eat this? What do I need to have my husband hide? All that energy can move towards something better. And that's a great feeling. You're free to choose what you want to do and how you want to do it. So as you may kind of notice as I'm talking about this here, is overcoming emotional eating is so much more than just about food. Like, yeah, it's about food, but it really impacts every area of your life when you think about that, right? Because so much time and energy and attention is being shifted from food and feeling bad about yourself to other things that you want to do in your life. That is the key. So my hope for this podcast is that it's a safe space where you can come to listen and just know that you're not alone. Because here's the other piece of this. A lot of people don't understand emotional eating. And if I had $1 for heck, if I had a penny for every time someone said to me, well, just don't eat it. Just don't eat the cookies, Amy. Y'all know. Y'all know how that feels. People don't understand emotional eating. If you haven't been there, if you haven't experienced it, if you don't know that pull, sometimes I describe it, it feels like almost like a trance, like food has this like trance or this power over you. If you don't understand that, it's hard to explain it. And because other people don't understand it, there can be a lot of shame associated with it. I know because I felt that over the years. So I get that. So I want this to be a place where you can come and listen, know you're not alone, stop suffering in silence, because that's hard, and really just learn some tips to help you get started or continue on your journey to overcome emotional eating, have a peaceful bite of food, and just feel better about yourself. Don't we all deserve that? I think so. Thanks for being here. Oh, and listen, I do hope that you'll share this with anyone you may know. I get that emotional eating is a sensitive topic. So, but I also know that as women, we tend to, share new things and talk about things. So if you do know somebody who could benefit from this topic, and you want to share it with them, I would appreciate that. What you can expect from this podcast, I will be sharing personal stories about my experience, and I'm going to include obstacles. I'm going to include stories that of things that maybe have been hard. So I'm going to include obstacles and triumphs, right? And specific things that I've worked on over the years to heal my relationship with food and my body, because as I mentioned earlier, the body is a big piece of this, right? Just learning to feel comfortable in your skin. I mean, no joking aside here, the first time I felt comfortable in my skin was just about 6 or 7 years ago. Okay? I'm about to turn 49. So you can do the math. I spent the majority of my life feeling really uncomfortable in my skin. That still makes me emotional. But I can share now how beautiful and amazing it feels to be friends with this body, to be friends with this physical form that I get to walk around this life with. And that's a beautiful thing. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing insights I've had over the years that will hopefully shed some light for you as you move on your journey. As I mentioned, I know this is a sensitive topic, and it's one that not everybody understands. And here's the thing. When I started my journey to overcome emotional eating, which was somewhere around the year 2015, 2013 is when I realized that it kind of became very clear that I had to do something about my habits with food. That's when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. That's another story for another day. But it was around 2015 when after I had gone through cancer treatment, when I realized, okay, I got to do something about my habits with food. And at the time, I could not find anyone who specialized in this topic. There were nutritionists and dietitians and therapists and all kinds of people, but I was specifically looking for someone who could help me with emotional eating, and I could not find anyone. I started working with a life coach, and we did a little bit of work on this. She didn't specialize on it. On emotional eating specifically, but we did do a little bit of work on it. And that's when I started to realize that there need to be people helping people with emotional eating. So I decided to become a life coach, well, because I just loved life coaching so much, and it literally has changed my life in so many ways for the better. But I decided to become a life coach and dedicate my coaching practice to this specialty, to overcoming emotional eating, because I have been there, I get it, I understand it, and I know how to break the cycle. I know how to change it. I've helped enough people do it, including myself. And the reason I share all this is so you know that there's someone who gets it. There's somebody who understands where you're at if this is something that you struggle with it. So without further ado, I'm going to wrap up this very first episode. Thank you for being here. Again, I would love it if you could share it with others who might find this topic helpful. And of course, if you'd like to learn more about what I do as a coach, go ahead and visit the website, amyenglishcc.com. All right. Until next time, have a great day. Are you ready to take control of your eating, embrace your body, and boost your confidence? Then let's get fierce. Start your Fat to Fierce journey today. Go to amyenglishcc.com for more resources and to book your discovery call.